Hello and welcome everyone back to another episode of Energy Unleashed. My name is Suzanne Worthley and I'm here with my co-host, Kim Hess. Hey there.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Oh, let's see. I was going to come up with a new word and I haven't come up with a new word yet. I have to think on that.
I am perfect. Say that.
Well, I don't like to lie very. No, I am actually, after getting hit so hard with this energetic stuff, I'm actually in a better place today.
Oh,
So
that's good.
yeah. Yeah,
I know a
good.
lot of people have been having trouble and we're on a common thread with quite a few
Mhm.
peer practitioners. And I don't seem to be getting hit quite as bad as some of you do, but I'm getting hit in other ways. It's all even, right?
I had a rough weekend.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
this is actually going to be a podcast on an actual client session. This particular client is anonymous for the listeners, but is a friend of ours. You know her as well, out of state. And I did a remote session on her, and I've worked on her for years. And she's this incredibly powerful light worker, probably around our age, and is in the middle of sort of deciding retirement. Okay. And has been this kind of a person that moves a lot,
Mhm.
like from house to house, all on the West Coast, and has moved numerous times since we've known her, which isn't even all that many years, right? And changes locations. And over the years, as I work with her, oftentimes I'm finding myself working on the location in the house as well. So this particular person is very powerful in terms of how the location calls her or the place calls her, because her body actually does a lot of work
Mhm.
in removing energy or resetting energy or things like that. So when she called this month for a healing, I was kind of thinking, oh yeah, here we go again. We're going to do the house, blah, blah. And it was funny because this woman works like a dog. And for her to be even semi-retired right now was fascinating to me. I mean, she's doing great in terms of doing more personal work,
Okay.
really getting into her own body, getting into her own space. So her space actually was really good. But it was very interesting because she was feeling very stuck and she knew that she needed like a new thing. And a lot of people right now, not just this client, are feeling stuck. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because stuck is interesting to me. And I hear this oftentimes in the office. I just feel stuck. I don't even know what that means, but I just feel stuck. So do you ever feel stuck? I didn't tell Kim anything about this one because I
Yeah.
want to watch.
No, I don't know anything about what is
Yeah,
going
I want to
on,
watch it. I
but
want to watch a real reaction for the
But
list.
no, I actually realize now when I feel stuck, either I need to be patient or I need to dig in a little more on what I'm working on. So
Okay.
I do have those feelings of like you're just not making movement forward or backward, like you're not making movement. And I had that a lot. I used to come to you all the time and be like, fix me, I'm stuck. I just feel like, whatever,
Yeah.
numb. Yeah.
So
So yeah.
this is one of the indicators, and I'm going to grow this story and unleash a little bit more here. But this is one of the indicators is that I just feel kind of stuck. Nothing's really happening. I'm not like, freaking out about it, but I just don't know what's going on. So when I go in and work on those kinds of people, this has happened before. Also, they are sort of like not grounded. Okay. I'm not
Mhm.
feeling grounded. This is part of the stuck. I don't feel like things are making some sense out here sometimes. Like, I'm losing some time in the days sometimes, or I feel like the day just went super fast, or the day just feels like I'm in molasses. So the time is all screwed up for these people. And have you been experiencing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just periodically. It's like all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. It was just like 1 o'clock and now it's 4.
Yeah.
Where did that go?
Or
Yeah.
the other thing happens to me, or I'm doing something like stretching in the morning, and I'm stretching and I'm stretching and I'm stretching and I'm working on and working on and working on. And I look at the clock and like a minute has gone by and I'm like, there's no way that that's been 1 minute. I mean, like I meditatively stretch and I go out and I do work while I stretch and I'm like, where am I going? Because there's no possible way that was a minute,
No,
versus.
no.
So time is really goofy.
Yeah. I
It's
agree.
just it's just odd.
And a lot of
So
people around me are saying the same thing. Like I can't, the calendar's way out here and I'm still back here. Or, when you look at just like you said through the day, they're
yeah,
just out of whack. Yeah.
yeah. And then for her, another indicator, and these are all kind of the flags, the red flags. Another indicator was like, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something, but I don't know what it is. As we all laugh. I feel like there's something coming, or I feel like there's something ending. You know, I did another individual Instagram the other day on, I feel like I'm dying, because a lot of people are also feeling like they're dying. There's like, I feel all this closure. I feel all this strange stuff that doesn't make any sense. I know I'm not dying, but I feel like there's dying, or I feel like I'm supposed to do something. So again, these are like time warpy, weird wobbles. Okay. So I go into the work. Her house was very wobbly, which I think was really interesting. That was one of the kind of affirmations for me to go, oh, this is what's going on here. So when we work with time, timelines used to be very distinct. I've got this timeline or this or this or this, and we can jump timelines or we can create new timelines. But we've talked about this a lot in our Vibe Tribe online community, that these are meshing and overlapping. And I think we even did a podcast on this, in that they are kind of wrinkling and doing like this. And so you'll have a little opportunity to slip through a timeline. So a lot of things are happening for people, like I'm partially in this timeline and I'm partially in that timeline. Or I completely leave my timeline for 20 minutes and come back to my timeline. And that's why 20 minutes was just a minute, or 20 minutes was 4 hours. You know what I mean? So it's all goofy. So the wobble in her house, in her hologram, was an indicator for me that once again, she was doing some timeline warping. And so I was like, wow, what is this? So in her particular instance, I went back and I was looking at, and she went through, oh, this is the other thing. Faces. People are just seeing faces when they're doing any meditative work, any quiet work, and falling asleep work. Sound familiar?
Yeah, I've done that for years.
Yeah. But it's ramping up. And I mean, lots of people will see faces, but now it's like those kinds of, that amount of warp speed on faces. So I'm going into the work, and again, faces, warp speed, faces. And I'm like, oh my God. So when I'm in the holographic work, I'm jumping through all of her timelines. And I'm like, this is so interesting. So what people are doing, and we alluded to this a little bit in another podcast, but I'm going to get into it deeper, is if this is my soul, and these are all my incarnations, and this is my incarnation now down to my body down here. Okay. I'm connected to my soul, but these are all my other incarnations, past lives, whatever. It feeds into my nucleus of my soul with information. So until this body connection down here leaves the planet, then this comes up and becomes another one of these tentacles, if you're following. Okay. So what's happening now is a lot of these are collapsing so that the soul is maintaining a lot of the records, and I'm just clearing the records. It's like doing a really big, massive cleanup in the office, and all the files are going on, you know, the days of microfiche, or all the days are going on the computer. Microfiche. I know, but I mean, this is the evolution, right? The days of microfiche, and then it went on to the computer, and now it's on the flash drive, and now it's just on the cloud, you know? So this has been changing, and now we're getting really rapid that we're taking all these files and we're just throwing them on the cloud, literally, in terms of just putting them back to the Akash. So what we're doing is we're experiencing, some people, not everybody's doing this, let me clarify. So what some people are doing is having real life connections to past lives that are very confusing.
Oh.
And this is one of the things that was happening to her. Like, oh, I'm having a visceral memory of being that warrior. I'm having a real palpable feeling of being that Native American. So the DNA memory activation is kind of like popping through this vehicle sometimes. So
is she actually visually able to see that in her third
not eye? Enough to get enough of a story to know what's happening. It's just confusing. Okay. So a lot of people that are having this happen to is, maybe I'm equating it to a crazy dream space. Maybe I'm equating it to just a meditative experience. Maybe I'm just equating it to I'm going nuts, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff where we're having these like, oh, that feels like I know that. And then poof, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's really sporadic and it's kind of crazy. Okay. So why is this happening? Why this is happening is twofold. We're bringing the files back and we're putting the soul back together so that the fractalization is bringing it back to more completeness. And it is giving activation in the DNA so that the current being, my client, the current being, is actually booting up some of that experience to be able to remember why she's on planet now. So let me finish this because your face is getting confused, which is perfect. So why am I on planet now in this body? And why am I activating that? It's because I'm going to use me. My Suzanne body needs to be a human incarnation with that activation inside of my DNA memory with such palpableness or visceralness or tangibleness so that I can remember what it is that I did. So I'm here to undo it.
So does that mean it's previous incarnations?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And previous karma.
Okay. Right.
And it can be huge karma. Like I was, part of the draconian reptilian agenda that put in all of the, negative nets around the planet. And now I'm here on planet experiencing the other side of it.
Okay.
So they're giving us the opportunity to realize that our soul can come back in multitudes of, I'm going to use really silly words, good and bad incarnations. But I really want to stress from the soul's standpoint, and especially from source, meaning God source, energy, there is no good and bad. But there's good and bad for us because we're in duality right now. We think things are bad, like Hitler was bad, right? I mean, that, so-and-so is bad. So we're going to use those words for lack of definition. So what we're finding out is many people now are on planet and they're reactivating all of these other lifetimes and soul completing and soul reclamation because I am allowing myself to remember all the so-called bad lives as well as the good lives. And I'm understanding the bad lives because now I'm in a neutral life in a new incarnation that can assist through the collective and guidance and guides to undo the so-called bad things I did in the past.
Okay. So back to your client.
Yeah.
Is she doing this in like meditation? Is she going back to do this work?
Yeah, so all of her quiet time, and this is happening subconsciously. So, but it's enough of an irritation, especially with somebody as gifted as her. She knows things are going on.
Right.
She needed the connection of the dot because what happens is when we go back and deal with an incarnation where I was the bad guy, it can screw with your mental field being this person.
Yeah.
I can all of a sudden find myself having guilt for something, but I don't know what I'm guilty for.
Right.
I can feel sadness. I can feel like unfinished business. I can feel all kinds of junk and garbage from that unfinished thing. And I can take it on in my Suzanne body and I can get sick and confused.
Right.
So for her, it was really awesome to connect the dots of, no, there's enough of a wiggle factor in there for you to not own that as your incarnation, but you can own it as a soul fractal of yourself.
And then what do you do with that though? Like if
then you say, allow yourself to,
I murdered somebody in this like lifetime.
Right.
Now what do you do with
you
that?
Go back and do the same work that you're doing as a human being right now on this planet, saying, I forgive myself for my last breakup. I forgive myself for being so cruel to my husband. I forgive myself for all of these things that we're doing. We're doing in a huge way over here, some of us. Okay. So you're doing the same thing. You want to go into that work. You want to go fully into that work. And it's so hard, Kim, because you're not the murderer.
Right. But you feel the emotions of all of it.
Right.
So but you feel like you are. Yeah. I get that. I mean, that has to be just crazy for her.
It is crazy.
For anybody.
Do you see how hard this is for some people? Because if I don't have some context to work with, I think I'm going nuts.
Right. Is that like part of schizophrenia or anything like that? Is that like some mental illness maybe?
Wow.
I mean, I think that would be.
There's a big question.
Kind of lifetimes of,
Yeah, you never know. But I think this is so important because a lot of people now are having the ability to come in this incarnation to release the karma of all of their incarnations, good, bad, and ugly, because they needed to be embodied here so that the DNA can be activated. My DNA memory can't be activated without a body.
Right.
Right?
That makes sense, because
so the old karmic pattern was a loop pattern that was a negative agenda. I don't finish my karma. I'm the bad mom. You're the kid that got abused. I come back to be the bad mom and you're the kid that gets abused. I go back to being the mom. We did this. This was a negative agenda that kept our human reincarnation recycle process in a loop pattern so we would never evolve as a soul.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Slaves to earth, whatever. Yeah.
Right. So this is the indication. That's why I thought she was such a fabulous client session. This is a true indication that we actually have the capability to embody once again as a human. And that's why it's important that we're human on this planet to do this. We can't do this in between lives.
Right.
We can't clear our karma like that in between lives. We can only do it in the human body.
Because when you're back in your source, your soul, that's what you're saying, is that you cannot do that work there. You need to be in a physical body here to do that work.
And I can't say for sure that we can't do it there, because I don't know. I'm not dead and I'm not in that space. But I know for a fact that when I'm in these moments with my guidance and my clearing, that they're saying this is the fastest and quickest way to reset karma overall.
Okay.
Because we're embodied, the DNA activates. I can feel it. I can bring it up as a file that's lost or dormant in my supercomputer. I can deal with the file and I can release it. Here, in between lives, I have to come in to do it. But I'm in already here doing it. Do you see? So in between lives, I'm having to position myself to say, these are the new lessons. These are the new choices. These are the new incarnations, because I still have to finish it.
Right.
So this is such a big deal, but I don't think people even have a clue of what probably I'm talking about at this point.
What?
Yeah. But I mean, truly, I don't think people have the concept of soul contracts and lives and reincarnation and the process of. I don't think that they're getting that. But I think what's more important, people don't understand that many really powerful starseed people are on this planet to be able to clear multitudes of karma.
So is it just karma, or is it, well, I guess it's probably both, but lineage. Like I've done
this karma, it's karmic lineage.
Lineage. So you're doing your family too. Like you could experience like a great grandfather doing something that was horrible. But you're clearing it for your DNA lineage, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that fits into that same bucket.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can collectively clear. So she's even doing collective clearing. So let's say again, I'm going to use my example. When I was really, really into figuring out some of my soul energy some years ago, I found myself being, I've said this before, a position of a general in the Galactic Federation. The general himself has not done some really nice things in some lifetimes, and I have experienced them. And this brought me to my knees to know fully that this was an incarnation that I felt in my Suzanne body 100% responsible for. And it took me a long time to dissect that down and say, you are not the general, you are Suzanne in this incarnation. This is a galactic memory or a galactic fractal, but it is not who you are. And that doesn't matter. You can tell me that 100 times till the cows come home, and it still felt, still felt.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm bringing this forward on a podcast to unleash it, to let people know if you're having this experience, it can be detrimental to you because you still feel it. I don't care how many times they tell you it's not you. It is. Okay. So if it is me, let's take that. It is me. It's a fractal of me. Now, do I have to have the weight of blowing up a planet on my Suzanne shoulders? Absolutely not. But does my Suzanne shoulders have the capability of pulling that up in my DNA file to release that? Hell yeah. Do you see the difference? Yeah. And so if I'm releasing something as powerful as electric wars, meaning when the star nations were fighting before the Earth was even a speck on anybody's radar, you That's my memories of literal planets blowing up. And I mean, really emotionally remembering. I can clear that karma on behalf of multitudes of timelines, beings, bodies, planetary existences, star spaces, all that, because I have the ability to pull that up in a human body and send it back where it belongs.
Okay, so let's go into the how, because you make it sound easy to bring it in and
right.
go.
Bringing it in is not necessarily something the person is doing on purpose. And this is why I'm bringing this client forward, because it's been confusing. I was confused my first time. When I was doing it, it was going into meditative spaces and having little movie snippets. Oh, what? Oh, what is that? And then the movie snippets start to come more and more together. And again, I'm going to say not everybody's going to do this.
Yeah.
This is really, I think, very galactic work. And oh, that makes more sense now. Oh, now I'm getting to know that. I can recognize that. And so the puzzle pieces start to come together. And then there's that one day in a meditative space that boom, you get the whole thing. It can happen in dream space, which is our client, more than meditative space. And remembering dream space of, oh, I did that. Okay. Wait, did I do that? Because that's not, wait, no, I'm laying in bed. So it gets freaky in your head.
Yeah.
And I really want people to understand it's happening for a multitude of reasons. With this timeline overlap warp, we're having the ability to slip through a portal of time to be able to experience that again, which then activates the DNA memory inside of my old junk DNA, which is my whole complete file, which is doing the work of putting back together my soul. So it's beautiful work. And then my soul's putting back together the whole holographic reclamation. We're reclaiming who we are, good, bad, and ugly, because ultimately we're getting over polarity and duality. We never release the bad guys because they're bad. We get to release the bad because it's just another version of. Do you see? Okay. But the bad in the old recycle program was, I was bad, now I have to be good. Now I was good, now I have to be bad. Now I was bad again.
So we're getting out of the loop.
Yes.
Right. And now what's actually healing, it's healing. You're bringing through, or the person, because she's not consciously doing this. She's not saying, hey, bring in my past lives. It's coming in through her dreams, or her state, because she's been called to do this cleanup, I would guess.
And sometimes, like herself and myself, I know I do it now. And she had inklings, but this was kind of like putting the whole thing together.
Okay.
So when the whole thing comes together, we do that aha, that, oh God, that's what's going on. And then we have that capability of going, oh shit, I can actually have the courage to go into that. So now for me, for example, I can be the general and go into the general lifetimes and not hold that same horror that I was holding before, because now I'm a little more skilled. So I can purposefully go in and mine the Akashic records on behalf of the general if I choose to, which is gigantic reclamation of a time cycle.
So you're, just to be clear too, though, that when you're doing this kind of thing and you realize that you're doing this, you don't want to internalize this and take on all of the emotion and the, like, all of that, because you'll become ill yourself. So the idea is that you realize it.
Yep.
You understand what it is, and you intent it to go up to the Akashic records.
But I'm going to say it's similar to empath information. And I say it in my book, and anything we do with empath, the first thing you do is internalize the horror just to feel it. Then you pull that outward and observe the horror, and you remove it from yourself, and then you send the horror up, because I can't send horror up without feeling it. This is what's been lacking in the Akash, is the feel, because we got hijacked as humans in our feel center, and we only sent up think fields. We only sent up thinks. So now I want the feel in there, because why do we want that Akashic full of the horror? Because then somebody coming in that's going to reincarnate and create would never create an electric war ever again, because that's horror, right? So we're putting the horror back. So for a time, we want to invite, to whatever extent we're capable skill-wise, to invite in the horde, to just remember that for a second, but then it's an immediate turnaround to go, but that is still not Suzanne in this meat and bone body existence. And I'm going to separate that now, and I'm going to work with that. So it is a skill set, and it is not easy. But the more that you do this work, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
It's not desensitizing. It's not desensitizing, but it is kind of, meaning I'm going to pull back and I'm going to honor that it was another lifetime, another thing. And I'm just going to look at it and honor it without owning it, because then it will make me sick.
I think that, because when you're going through something like this too, and you're not understanding it, right? Like you know that you had that crazy dream. Was it real? Was it not? Did it, there have to be things in the day-to-day too that trigger that memory over and over and over, that makes it really difficult for that person. Like it starts to become very crazy.
You think you're crazy. Yeah. And that's why I want to really bring this forward for anybody that's listening that is having anything even remotely similar, because there is so many things going on that we're not understanding with reclamation. And that's the word. It's reclaiming our past. It's reclaiming. And so let's, again, I know this is a really tough one, and this is why I didn't want to bring it forward, because you're asking really good questions that people, the reason I don't let you in on the whole thing is because you're asking the questions that the listener would have, right?
I hope so.
Because this is confusing. It's hard work. So let's think of me as a Suzanne, or you as a Kim incarnation. And if I'm cleaning up my own house before I die and leave this planet, I'm cleaning up my karma. I'm cleaning up when I was an asshole to my first boyfriend. I'm cleaning up when I really hated my mother-in-law and I treated her poorly. I'm doing all this crappy garbage stuff that we do as a human life. We can go through and let all of that karmic return go before we're dead, which is, by the way, what we should, and I'm going to use that word, right? So that we go home with a clean karmic, right? So I'm going to do this picture again. So this is Kim, and this is all the things Kim did, good, bad, and ugly during Kim's life. And I'm still just Kim. These aren't past lives this time. This is not my soul. This is just Kim. And I'm going to let that one go, and I'm going to let that one go, and let that one go, so that I can go back to now this soul, right? With a better connection, right? Now, we're patterns within patterns. So Kim is doing this work so that this can do this work.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So that the top one, like you said, the top one is the past life.
Stuff.
Okay.
So this is Kim down here, past years, past months, past whatevers. We collapse that. We bring it together as a whole. We bring it to our soul self with past lives that is collapsing, bringing it down. Now, if we had more hands, we would keep going. This is universal. This is soul family. This is whatever. And this pattern keeps going and going upward as reclamation. So we're releasing all these files to bring it into the center, to go up again, release all the files to bring it up, release all the files to bring it up. Do you see how we're going all the way up the ladder with all the files, good, bad, and ugly, to go back to source?
So this is part of the ascension process, right? This is what we're doing. Ascension. It's totally ascension. So as we do this, so we take care of our stuff here first, or it's kind of can be at the same time, which is what you're talking about with the timelines overlap. And like, I could be working on, I was really mean to somebody and forgive, but at the same time, I'm dreaming about, I was a nun in a convent, and I had a horrible experience, right? Like,
exactly.
And that's what creates
you're multitasking. Yeah. So you asked before, what's the trigger for the client, right? It could be anything that will just resonate as a frequency that's similar to reactivate that DNA memory, right? So we can trigger all day long, which is actually an opportunity for bigger and more broad healing.
But if you don't understand it, you're triggering and you're going down a hole.
You're going nuts.
Like, and it turns into anxiety and depression and all of those things, right?
Bingo.
Oh, my goodness sakes. But I've done some of this work, so it is ringing true with me, but not understanding that it's becoming so thin between the timelines and between that it's all starting to kind of come in, and you're multitasking all of it.
But again, this is purposeful in terms of the design intelligence of source energy has the ability to weave the timelines now because of the light fluctuation. That's why. And then they place the human incarnation with the ability to finally hold that knowledge. If you do enough personal work and spiritual work, you will be skilled enough to know I am not the general. That is not who I am. I might get my ass kicked the first time, I remember, but trust me, by round 2, I was better. And by round 5, I'm like, not me.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then I don't even think I should open that door. I was going to say something.
Would that be another podcast?
Well, actually, I'm going to say it. What the heck? Okay. We're already up to our neck. With the general, I have done so much of that work that there was a point of that really dominant piece of my essence of my soul that actually integrated into my Suzanne energy body. And it was an integration that was very, very, very visceral, very physical, very emotional, very mental, so that I'm constantly now doing that work because it like completely merged. And so that's another fascinating level to get to, because now I don't have to be scared of it. I don't have to be scared of that because I don't have to be the general. I can choose to be the general. And it's just like sometimes when I tell people, you know, there was a time when I was a mom and my kid was being really bullied at school. And trust me, I walked in that school and I was a piece of work energetically that I would never. I mean, I blew the door open and people walked like they parted like Moses because I was pissed. And I mean, I was mama bear to the nth degree. Now, do I do that every day? Absolutely not. Do I own the shit out of that? You bet. Do I have to be that mean and nasty and controlling ever again? Maybe. And I may choose to, and I may not. You know, this is what I'm saying about these things. When this is you right now as Kim, do not underestimate that we have the ability to be good, bad, and ugly all the time and love every single one of them. We're not proud of the action, but we're proud of the fractalization of my personality that allows me to make free will choice. And with that free will choice comes my consequence. This is the empowerment that we take back when this happens. When we start to do this work, what we're actually doing in reclamation is our sovereignty, allowing myself to make free will choices. And I know that's my consequence, nobody else's.
That's powerful. I mean, getting to that level is really, really powerful.
Yep.
But
let's bring it down. Let's bring it down to day to day. I really want people to get this. Let's bring it down to day to day. George Floyd in our neighborhood, right? George Floyd days. I have the free will right to burn down a freaking building because I get to. Do I have a consequence? Hell yeah. But I have the right? Do I have to really think I'm a horrible human being? Maybe, maybe not. You're not a horrible human being or a soul. You had maybe poor behavior and a bad choice, but is it a bad choice? You know, this is where we get really like, wow, this could never end, because we have lived in a society that has polarized energy, good, bad. And we have to have that because we live in gender here. We live in duality here. There has to be this and that. There has to be male, female. There has to be right, wrong, dark, light, ugly, pretty, the whole gamut, right? But what is important when we're doing soul reclamation is stop the labels. If I had that lifetime or that choice when I was 21, if I chose to, you know, have that abortion, I don't have to have guilt the rest of my life because that was a choice and I get to own that. That isn't a bad choice. It's a choice. But society say that's a bad choice. You know, I mean, that's just a heavy one to throw out for an example. That's what I'm saying. Make peace with every single solitary thing that you're doing in this Kim life with all of these, because when this collapses, Kim, that's when you move up the ladder to the soul one, and the same work is simultaneously being done in the timelines that are now weaving.
Okay. God, that's just so, like, even to approach it, like I through healing and different sessions and whatever, these things have come up and I've worked through and released, you know, some of the past life, some of the current life. But to actually focus on that is a different thing. I think it's, like you said, the more you do it, the better you get. But how do you like create that or go about that? Like,
you meditatively open up to it and you ask your guidance to bring forward what you are capable of handling at this time. And that's imperative too. You know, bring me what the work I can do at this time. Bring it to me in dream space if I can't do it meditatively. Bring it to me meditatively if that's important, and on and on. So what it does is a lot of healing. I get better guidance. I get better connections with my guides. I get better connection with my soul. Okay. And what the ultimate thing, what we haven't even touched on, which is the biggest thing of all, is this starts to take away judgment. This starts to take away, oh God, I was a horrible 20-year-old, you know,
which you go back and beat yourself up for over and over. And
I deserve to be a shit life because I was horrible. I can't tell you how many people have said that in my office, right? No, absolutely. That is not a truth. That's a society crappy belief system that you're still running as a narrative. When I can go back and start to do that for my own self-love, then I stop judging others. This is when the healing starts to happen way up the ladder, because after we've collapsed Kim, we've collapsed Kim's soul, we've collapsed Kim's soul family, we've collapsed a soul essence. Oh my God, now these hands up here are the collective. Just think of the change of that.
Wow, the collective would be in such a better place if we were all doing this together. Yeah.
And we would not judge one another. We would not be killing humans, much less animals or anything on this planet the way that we do it, because we are now coming back to oneness. So this is the ascension process, but these are the mechanics of how the energy creates itself or collapses itself or reclaims itself. These are the energetic, like, specifics, tactics that we're not taught. And many of us are doing it in a place of dream space, which is a beautiful and wonderful thing. But many are having those windows crack open and think that they're crazy. So I am really wanting this to get out and, you know, share it and talk about it, and don't think you're a nut job. And if you can't make sense of it, you know, work harder. Meditation is not an easy thing. Prayer is not fun. I mean, this is not fun stuff. This isn't fun work. This is really important so that we all come to a playing field of loving one another instead of judgment and cruelty and stuffing and then dying in these bodies that are sick because we haven't done the work.
Right. Agreed. It's not easy work. It's gosh, when you go through some of it, it's amazing how much lighter you feel, you know, when you release things. And it's, but to focus on actually having that come through, I'm so excited to try this now, to ask for this, because while I do, like, in my life now, I wasn't doing it for past life stuff necessarily. To pull it in, what can I handle at this time? And bring it forward. So,
and now this will be on your back burner also as an indicator of information, so that now when knowledge comes through of other knowledge, past lives or something, you now have the information running in the back burner of your head. And if I have a crazy ass dream, you can connect information and knowledge together and start to find wisdom of, oh, that's what's happening. And I don't have to freak out and think I'm nuts, you know? So these, and you can push yourself or not push yourself as much as you want to with this. And again, this might not be for everybody. You know, there might be people listening to this that, you know, logged off
in your
20 minutes ago. Like,
in your Confident Empath book, you do have a process that can be adapted to do this, right?
Yeah. The Empath book has the specifics of the process on how to draw that in, feel it, send it up to prayer, send it up to the Akash, because that's the work on the Kim one. Okay. What this client opened up was the collapse of the Kim one. She was working on this one. And more, which is really cool. And then I've done it where I've done this one, and then I'm in these areas, which is really quite fascinating, because we are in a time period where we have never experienced before, in that we are in a universal time matrix that has the ability to put the entire hologram back on a reset. And in some instances, that's already done, but we're seeing the power of that. And the cool part about being in the mess of how we got there is the empowerment of the individual. It's the empowerment and the sovereignty of the individual to go, oh, I am the co-creator because I just uncreated that. There's many of us starseeds that are embodied on this planet because we know where the bodies are buried.
Right.
This is what I kept
Right.
telling
This
the
is the
client.
big stuff, like, the activations and the different things that are happening, or that's big.
And with this particular client, there's an angelic realm that this one can get into. And it's funny because I was just watching a really old movie. Gosh, I don't even know how old it is. Prophecy with oh God, crazy. Oh, I can't think of the
I don't think
actor.
I've seen this. I don't know.
It's all about the fallen angels.
Oh,
Can't think of the actor because you know him and he's just that creepy, spooky actor, and I'm having a moment. But anyway, watched Prophecy and then actually worked on this client, or I worked on the client the day before and then watched it 2 days later, whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is so interesting because that fallen Nephilim, the fallen angels, the fallen everything, those are fractals of our God source bodies too. And in this hugest hologram, way above even the collective hands, we can get up to the architecture hands of the angelic realm. Even this is being put back together.
Oh my gosh.
Because we can have an angel, for example, we can have the Michael angel who, and we talked about this on Vibe Tribe, we can have the Michael essence of the angel, but the angel actually incarnated over and over again in other bodies too, and played the role of good, bad, and ugly so that it knew all of the aspects of self. This is what we're doing. And now that embodiment of us humans coming down here on earth is reclaiming it all, because I know the nasty angelic fallen part of me is in that inner earth realm. I know the general that did this is in that galactic realm, and I can find that timeline and I can find that frequency because I was there.
Isn't that John Travolta movie, Michael?
No, that's Michael. But yeah, that's a good one too. But Prophecy is a different one.
Yeah, right.
And
no. He was talking about the coming back into different bodies. I was like, oh, this reminds me of the John Travolta movie.
Yeah, and it's so funny because sometimes the older movies really knew a lot of stuff.
They do.
Right?
Brad keeps telling me this. My husband is like, we have to watch this movie because it's the history of what, like, it's like, and there's things in it that you're like, oh, like I never got that before in the movie.
Yep. Walken. Christopher Walken?
Oh, yeah.
Christopher Walken? Yeah. That's
he can be just.
Oh, he can be so creepy. And he's I think he's Gabriel, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it's just one of those ones where the old movies kind of go, we've known this stuff forever. Why aren't we figuring this out faster?
Right.
Right. I mean,
and it must be because people, like, even they put it out there, and if I didn't get it at that time, I wasn't ready to get it. Like, I just wasn't open enough, or like my mind wasn't open enough for the concept of whatever.
However, I will state here just my own personal opinion. Mm-hmm. I did not resonate to the concept of the Prophecy movie. The concept of the Prophecy movie in the Christopher Walken situation is that the angels were pissed at the humans because the humans got to have a soul. And then that was like a war. And I don't believe that, because that just doesn't resonate for me. The actual underlying concept for the warring business, but I don't believe in that at all. But just the concept of, fallen angels, period, is part of this whole entire thing, because the higher up we get, we're returning and reclaiming not only angels, but we're reclaiming trees, and we're reclaiming everything. We're reclaiming a color, frequency, sound. We're reclaiming everything that was shattered. And so there's the reclamation of the energies to put back to, I always see it like crashing the movie and then putting it back together. The coffee cup crashes and then the coffee cup goes back. You know what I mean? When you reverse the movie. So I feel like we're in the reversal of the coffee cup going back on the shelf, right? And so we're right in the process of this. That reclamation is everything. And we can help that process overall by doing our own first personal reclamation, then our soul reclamation. And then if we are skill set, we know how to traverse that ladder even higher and higher. And that, I think, is what's fascinating about this, because it's happening anyway. But those that are getting the nudges and want more, we need to command of ourselves. I want to know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm really sticky when I work with my guys. I'm like, I'm not doing that unless you show me why.
Yeah.
I want to know why I'm doing this. And then I get educated. So for those out there just waiting for divine intervention, sometimes you have to really scream and say, no, I want this. I want to know how to do this. But again, be careful what you ask for.
Well, I was just, that went through my mind. I'm like, sometimes just be careful.
Yeah. So does that make sense? Is there anything still lagging out there? Because I know that was a lot.
No, it's a lot, but I think that we've touched on some of parts of this in different podcasts.
Yeah.
And you're pulling together that whole ascension piece that's so difficult to understand. So I would, encourage people to watch it more than once. But I would assume that we would go deeper into some of this at some point too.
And I think the bottom line of this is forgiving yourself. Just get off your own,
just get out of your own way. I keep
oh
telling
my God, right? I mean, I can be horrible and I don't be horrible.
Yeah.
I can act horrible, but I don't be horrible.
Yeah.
So, I can choose to be acting horrible and then I have my consequences. So this is really about sovereignty and responsibility of outcomes. And this brings us back to the laws of the universe, law of polarity, law of gender, law of cause and effect, law of attraction. These are all the ways that this energy actually works. And, gosh, in my opinion, if we would teach us this in school, we would be a completely different planet and certainly different humans, right?
For sure. Absolutely. So, and understanding your own energy and frequencies, what a difference all of it would make.
Yeah. So it's just some things to think about. We're coming, I don't know when this will air, but we're probably coming into the last quarter of the year or the very first quarter of the next year here. And these are the times when a lot of people will put out their intentions for moving forward, whether it's a solstice intention or a New Year's resolution or whatever. These are all really great times to do that releasing. And you can do that in any way you choose to, obviously, as ritualistic as you want to, or it's a thought, or a cut a cord or whatever. But soul reclamation and release and sovereignty, freedom, this is all really big, in my opinion, things to put on the wish list for the coming year.
Oh my gosh, huge. I'm really excited to do this a little differently. Yeah.
Cool. Well, then we'll come back in a little while and see how it's going.
I know. I'll be like, well.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is a little different. You do think, I'm going to end with this. I like to share these really crazy out there ones because there are very many people out there that think they're crazy, so they keep this to themselves. And so please feel free to comment or reach out if you are one of those that is having these. So, and even my blog on the Ascension blog from way back still has lots of sharing on, I thought I was crazy until I found this. I thought I was nuts until I heard this. And there's lots and lots of people that are stuffing these feelings of fear, craziness, I'm going nuts, and, and confusing it with the chaos of the world. This is a process that doesn't have to be crazy if we start to dissect it down and understand it in love versus fear. So that's really the most important part. And then just really getting off your own back and having a easier way to navigate life without judgment. When everything becomes neutral, life becomes very easy. But again, when you become neutral, last warning, lots of other people that haven't found neutral will misinterpret neutral. And you will have a backlash also of, why don't you care? Why don't you care about anything? Why aren't you worrying about so-and-so? This is all empath stuff. Be aware. Go back and read the empath book or go back to those tapes, because this is actually the danger over here. This is actually the freedom. So, but it's perceived differently because of our training.
Right.
Yeah,
it's all good. Yeah, definitely get your book.
This is a big one. Well, thanks for letting me spring it on you, because I think that's important, because it gives it a really genuine, like, dig out the question, like, I don't have any idea what you just said. So thank you for letting me kind of barrage you on this.
I'll be your guinea pig anytime.
That's right. Okay, so hit share, hit like, subscribe, maybe put a comment in. And if you know someone that's struggling, maybe give them the opportunity to, take a peek at this. It might help. So until next, everybody, cosmic hugs.
Bye.
No off.